Let's take a look at the first illustration. It depicts some of the primary ways that your computer interacts with the web. Let's start over on the left side of the illustration. This largest box represents your whole computer. In your computer, there's an application called a web browser that allows you to interact with the web. Popular web browsers include Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and Internet Explorer, but there's other options out there as well. One of the primary functions of a web browser is to request and display web pages for the user. That function is represented by the green box that says HTML Viewer. What is HTML exactly? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's the primary code used for writing web pages. We'll look at HTML a little more closely later in this lesson. For now, all you have to see is that web browsers translate web pages from HTML code into graphical displays that we can see on our computer monitors. Web browsers contain many other functions besides simple HTML display capabilities. Your browser probably has a PDF viewer so that it can display PDF files. It may also have a Flash plugin, which allows it to view a variety of online animations written in Flash. Browsers have many more applications like this that allow them to take advantage of the diverse capabilities of the web. In this illustration, these applications are all lumped together into the green box labeled Internal Executables. Your web browser is also linked to other applications on your computer, not just internal applications on the web browser. For example, your web browser might detect a song or a video that's embedded in a web page, and so it might automatically access a media player from your computer so that it can view that media on the web. Your web browser also has access to a couple different kinds of data storage. One kind of data storage is called cache. Cache helps a web browser to load web pages more quickly. When a web browser loads a web page for the first time, it has to download all of the data from the web server so that it can display it for the user. Web browsers will keep some of this data in cache storage so that the next time the user needs to access the web page, it will load more quickly. It already has some of the data in storage. Another kind of storage is the general file storage for your computer, such as the storage space available on your hard drive. Your web browser can download documents and applications from the web, and it can store those documents and applications in the storage space on your computer. And then you can open or execute those files later without being connected to the internet or even having your web browser open. Now let's start working our way over to the right. There's a red arrow connecting the web browser to the web server. This arrow is labeled HTTP. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP is the communications protocol, that is, the communications rules used for communicating HTML code. Now, you may remember, in an earlier lesson I said that computers communicate across the internet using a set of rules called Internet Protocol, or IP. Now, you might be wondering, well, which is it, IP or HTTP? Technically, the answer is that computers need to use both IP and HTTP in order to access web pages. IP is necessary for communicating anything at all across the internet, whether it be a web page or something else. But HTTP is an additional protocol that's only necessary to communicate web pages. As you can see in the illustration, the HTTP arrow runs both ways. HTTP defines the rules for your web browser to communicate with the web servers, and it also defines the rules for the web servers to communicate back with your web browser. Moving further to the right, this diagram includes a web server. The web server is a storage computer that's located somewhere else on the internet. It's a remote computer containing a document called a web page, and your web browser is the application that allows you to access the web page from your computer. In this illustration, it kind of looks like your computer has a direct connection to the web server, but remember that that's not really the case. Between your computer and the web server is the whole internet, a vast system of networking devices. The web server contains web pages, and web pages contain two different kinds of content: static content and dynamic content. What's the difference between static content and dynamic content? The main difference between the two is how interactive they are. Static content is less interactive. It stays the same every time you access it, regardless of what you do with it. Text and photos are examples of static content. Text and photos are often meant to stay the same for every user who accesses them. Dynamic content, on the other hand, is interactive. It's usually some kind of interactive program embedded in the web page. Because it's interactive, dynamic content is potentially different each time you access it.